Welcome to Gifford's Rope Walk. I am Stephen.
I'm Ben. Welcome.
We're going to give you a little demonstration about what we do and help the history and talk about the history of rope walks and how ropes are made.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, ropes back in the day were all made by fiber, and we would use hemp or sisal or jute, and they were long stem plants. First thing they'd do is cut them down, and they'd lay them in the field and they'd let them dry. You got to get all the moisture out of them. And then once the moisture's out of them, they actually got to soak them so that it dissolves the glue, the stickiness inside of the plant. And you can see here there's fibers inside of those long plants. So the first thing they do is they use a board and they actually break off all the hard pieces off of the fibers. The outside and the inside have bark and hard parts of the plants that they would break, and then they would smash them off. Once they did that, then they would use a comb and actually comb off all the excess, and so all they were left with was the fibers on the inside. So if you look at what you normally know as a rope and you get down to it, you'll see there's a bunch of twisted parts in it. You got a thick rope, and then inside there's plies or yarns inside of it, and each of the yarns themselves individually are twisted up. But if you untwist them all the way down, you get to where you just have some fibers. It just looks like little dried grass, if you will. And that's what those are. Those are just plant fibers that were bundled up and broken off the outsides, and then they were twisted into yarns. And after you've combed off all the hard parts, they would take them with a big wheel and a hook, and they would make the individual yarns and put them on spindles. Then they would take them to a rope walk, and that's what we have set up here behind us. And they would take those yarns and they would twist them to a different thickness depending on what they would need. Ropes were widely used in every walk of life, from your cattle to your livelihood to household chores. And in the big ships, the pirate ships or the cargo ships, those ships would take 30 to 40 miles of rope to put their sails up, for their nets, for their anchors, for hammocks. Ropes were used everywhere. So the rope is all too, depending on what you're using it for, it depends on how thick you need the rope. And that thickness based is on how many yarns you put on there. As Benjamin is going across this rope walk here, he's adding yarns onto 3 separate hooks. And those 3 separate hooks, he's putting 8 strands of yarn. So that's going to end up looking about this size right here. It's 24 strands. Now if you need a thicker rope for say an anchor, this one here has 128 strands on it. So the thicker the rope that you need, you just add more strands and more strands, and then they're going to twist. As they twist, on this side, each one of those hooks is going to spin independently, and it's going to put twists on that rope. Now as that rope twists, you'll notice that over here, this guy is actually going to shrink because those fibers are getting shorter because they're turning from straight to at an angle. Now we're going to use a device called a donkey or a top, and that's going to keep those 3 separate strands separate while they're twisting, and they're going to gain tension. Now once the tension is so tight on them, they're going to want to bind onto each other. So what's going to happen over here on this side is we're going to let them twist the opposite direction, and we're going to slide the top forward, and those 3 individual strands are going to bind the opposite direction and create a rope. So we're going to go ahead and twist those and show you how we make a rope. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top and separate them, and then Benjamin's going to start twisting the gears over here. Okay, so here's a close-up look on the twisting gear, the one that Benjamin was spinning here. As you see it moving. So this one is a cutaway of what's happening here. Is there's an outer gear, and when this outer gear spins around the outside, the inner gears are moving. And the reason that we do this is we need to get an advantage on spinning, or our arms are going to fall off. When we made just this short 15-foot rope, it takes 400 twists to make the rope. But with this advantage with the outer wheel, every time we turn it, the inner hooks move 4 times for every time we go around once. So rather than having to spin this 400 times, we can create the rope with 100 turns. And start twisting. And you'll see one of the reasons we use yarns is because they're very easy to see the color separation. So I'm going to take the top here. Separate each of these strands. Keep them nice and snug so you can see them here. And they're all straight and colors are straight. Now Benjamin starts spinning and you're going to see that the colors start to crisscross. And you're going to notice almost instantly this guy's going to start walking forward as the rope shrinks. Fibers are twisting diagonally, and they all twist together here. So the tension's really growing on these individual strands. You can see that the angle is almost at a 90 degree. And what's going to happen is it's going to start growing so much tension over here. This top is going to want to move. This donkey's going to start moving, and they're going to start binding and twisting together. Now the tension's already in the rope, so now all it's going to do is going to counter twist. And I'm not pushing here, I'm just holding it back so that the tension goes in evenly. And that, folks, is how you make the yarn. Now here's the cool part. Once we get it made, we're going to tie it off on both ends here. And with all that tension, the tension is inside the rope. Each of the strands twisted one way, and then the counter twist the opposite direction, puts the rope, all the tension is stuck inside of there. So you can see there is a handmade rope. It's got 24 strands in there, 24 plies with 3 separate strands twisted together. And that, folks, is how you make a rope. And so here's our jump rope made from the Gifford rope block. Thanks for watching, folks, and have a great day. So as we're making our ropes, we typically use 2 different colors so you can see the twisting. Now the neat thing about it is the twisting, even though the tension is the same on each of the 3 different strands, you'll see that they randomly twist. So you're going to get different patterns on each of the different plies. Kind of like that uniqueness. And by using 2 different colors, you can actually see that so that the yarns are all twisted inside of each other randomly. That gives it its strength. So here's some of the colors that we've done. Some blues and yellows, some purples, got some good old John Deere colors, candy cane colors. We did a couple Eclipse ones. This guy here is our Eclipse ropes. And of course the one we just made here, ketchup and mustard. And we'll also do the Scottish Clans ropes. And this right here is actually jute twine. We've actually made some production ropes for different uses. Carpenters that need it. We've had folks that need actual rope, and so we have the fiber itself, jute and sisal, we can make production ropes as needed as well.